What is up, everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of the Pop Cult Cast. We're at episode 8, Caleb. We're just this close to episode 10, the big milestone episode.
We're that close. Yep.
Exactly. But I'm talking right now. How you doing, Caleb? How's the life going?
I'm doing amazing, settling in Washington. For anybody that's in Washington State right now, they should know that it's raining constantly. It's definitely a different vibe from Missouri, but I'm settling in. What about you?
Man, I just got back from a little 8-hour shift. Some light, but working retail at the start of holiday season. Oh my goodness gracious, man. Like today was rough. Yeah, like this. So this is a quick little story, like of just how my mental degenerated throughout the day. So I was like getting some like baby clothes, whatever. And then this woman that works in the little baby section, I was kind of struggling trying to find something. And then like she's like, oh, do you help finding anything? And I was like, yeah, I just needed to find this piece of clothing. So she's like, oh, I know where it is. And then I'm following her. And then like she has like, I hate like talking about people behind their back, but like she like the way, so she wears like jean pants like in a weird way to where like it's basically like her ass is hanging out.
Oh God.
Like, legitimately. And it's like not like no one says anything to her. So I'm walking behind her and like she takes her fucking hand and starts itching her ass. Yeah, and she's working in baby clothes, like in the baby section.
Oh no.
So I'm sitting there like, bro, should I like call her out right now? Should I like just walk away? Like I was just so like morally conflicted because like are you out of your like just the level of like just like what's the word for that? Like the level of just not caring about any other people, like the selfishness,
inconsiderate,
like,
yeah,
inconsiderate. It's like, what is wrong with you? But
you're working in retail, so like it can be absolutely insane. Like exactly. One of my first jobs is at a Dollar General, and I will never forget that we had one bathroom for all the customers who were there, like a single, toilet or whatever. And somebody went in there and they just smeared poop. Like all over the bathroom. Like why was that? And the thing is, we caught the person, and I'm sure like somebody that has like issues, you know what I mean, like they're not like thinking clearly or whatever. And no, it was like a person that just did it. That's like why do that to me? I only got paid $7.25 to clean
exactly that up. Man, retail, man, that is a layer of the 7 L's. That's like the 8th layer of hell right there. But breaking to the show real quick, I do have some breaking news real quick. So Elon Musk, we all know he's in charge of Twitter now. We saw the video of him bringing the sync into the Twitter offices, but officially today, starting with Twitter for iOS, you can be a verified user on Twitter for $8 a month. So what that means is like or at least how Elon explained is that as you buy into Twitter Blue, which is going to be with it's going to get you that verified check mark. Apparently, so if you buy it, your like feed is going to, or your like comments and Twitter posts are going to be pushed at the top of the feed. Where if you don't buy it, it's going to be pushed all the way to the bottom. The way he described it was that with that new feature is that racist, anti-Semitic, these kind of posts are going to be pushed down because I guess he assumes that they're just going to buy Twitter Blue. But like at the same time, people who don't want to pay $8 a month, their messages and like their tweets and their replies are going to be pushed down to the bottom. So, just quick little news. Like, do you have any opinions on Elon Musk taking over Twitter right now? Laying off like 75%.
I'm salty about it actually because I told you before we started the episode, like I got the job interview as a reporter for next week, and the thing with journalists is once you get that job at like an official news site, you get the check mark. Like you send in your stuff to Twitter, they verify who you are, say yes, this is a proper journalist, and you get the check mark. I'm watching all my friends that I graduate with one by one get their check mark. And now it's just like pay to play. Like I can be sub and just get a check mark. Like it's not even like an official thing anymore. Right. So I'm salty about that. And also the $8 a month, like seeing how a lot of celebrities and others reacted to it, I wonder if like there's going to be a capital flight, so to speak, like the people that can afford to pay for it that previously had the blue check are just going to not buy into it out of protest, and you're going to have like Stephen King, one of the most known writers in the entire world, not having a check mark, but then Billy Boy 69 is going
Right.
to have like 3 blue check marks.
Right. And it's like, it makes you
premium.
ask the question, like, I need to look more into what, how much they're going to offer with this like verified check mark feature now. But it's like, what's the point? Like, everybody's verified now. Like who cares about that status anymore? Right. It used to be like, I mean, it's never been like a huge, like, oh my God, this guy's verified. Unless you like, someone local, like you were talking about. But like, it was just a way to like kind of distinct between who's like actually, I hate to use it, like somebody or like somebody of note to be like taking attention to on Twitter versus everybody else, like the 90% of people that were using Twitter unverified. And I kind of liked it like that in a way, just seeing like, I don't know, it's maybe just like it's like, I don't even think it's like a weird ego thing. It really is just like distinction between like who's like the real person, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of wondering about is, I'm sure there's going to be like politicians that won't pay for it. Like maybe their campaigns like cannot pay for it or shouldn't pay for it because of ethics reasons. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like you'll have these people that won't have the check marks for whatever reason, and they'll be like the official source of information for whatever. That's got to be weird. Like that's got to be different. Like I wonder if it's almost going to promote like fake news sources or bad sources of information, because what's going to stop me now from going and paying for a check mark on my, fake Sylvester Stallone account and then I announce Rocky 7? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's also just the thing is like, I mean, Twitter and like people use Twitter are just gonna have to, I guess, evolve from this and just be like, okay, let's put in some more effort. Let's actually look at the account before we actually look or like take their information as credit, because it's not like the big thing about Twitter is that you can look at the @ versus the username. So like you said, if you said like you made a Rocky account, right? And like you can put the name as like Rocky, whatever, but then the @ will be clearly like not, anything close to Rocky. But I mean, definitely though, like people are going to be more cautious with looking at the account and taking information, worth a grain of salt. You actually like have to use your like internet Wernthal to take the time to look at the page and see if it's anything worth your time.
I gotta ask you, do you feel like with everything that's happened on Twitter and just where Twitter was before the buyout, that it's a dying service? Like it's the next MySpace?
Twitter?
Do you think so?
Ooh, that's actually a really good question, because like I wasn't even a huge MySpace person. So I'm curious of like how people thought about that change from like Twitter to like Facebook, because that was the natural evolution. But like honestly, there's really no app like Twitter right now. That's the thing. Like I think more people, like I think it's on statistically, more people use like Facebook and like Instagram versus they use Twitter. But like Twitter is such a unique platform. Like I don't know if you noticed, but like every Instagram meme is basically like a screenshot of a Twitter post. And it's like, yeah, Twitter, I think Twitter for now has its own niche. Like people
I think that's kind of its problem though. Like hear me out on this. Like let's say you go onto Twitter to argue with people about politics, right? Like you're super passionate about whatever your political belief is, you want to change the world, and that's what you use it for. And there's a lot of people that use Twitter for that, for like some type of public advocacy. But even then, the reason why you do that all times throughout the day is the same reason why the guy next to you plays Call of Duty all day. Like it's how you choose and want to spend your time. And being a gamer, I'm sure you've seen a lot of those games that were really phenomenal, you really liked, but it ended up having like a very passionate but smaller community that it catered to. And you can't really like cater to that in perpetuity. Like it always goes away after like, 5-10 years, they shut down the servers and move on because that passionate niche just continues to shrink.
Right.
And I feel like Twitter, that's like, it doesn't seem like it's innovative anymore. Like adding $8 to, pay for a blue check isn't like game changing. Whenever you do have alternatives like TikTok, and like, which do you really want to spend 10 minutes on, Twitter or TikTok? And I feel like most people are going to say TikTok easily nowadays. They feel like Twitter's kind of like a cesspool, kind of like Facebook is, because of that niche. But what about you? What do you think?
I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, I think that's a fair point of people like why would you rather spend your time, TikTok or Twitter? But at the same time, like I guess it just depends on how you use each platform. Like for me, Twitter is literally just like news gathering. Like I just see what's going on in the world right now, this and that. TikTok is just like, I just want a quick little laugh. I want the best algorithm in the world, literally, just to spew out things that it'll know that I like. But like I never get news from TikTok, Like I just get people's like opinions and like just people like things as algorithm things I like. So I never used TikTok for that sort of platform. But I mean, say if the natural evolution of Twitter is everybody goes to TikTok, and that's how it evolves from just like a more entertainment based sort of app to having more news, then like maybe. But like I genuinely can't think of, going back to like the MySpace and Facebook, I can't think of a natural progression from Twitter to X thing. I'm thinking right now like Skype to Discord, right? It's like the next big thing. Like no one knew when Skype was a thing. Like no one was thinking about a Discord, or like going back to MySpace, no one was talking about a Facebook. So I think, I think Twitter definitely has its place. I don't think Twitter's going anywhere soon, unless Elon really just like nosedives it into the ground, which is like a fair possibility.
Well, let me ask you though: do you use PayPal at all?
Yeah.
Or even know anybody use PayPal? Wow, you're the only person I know that uses
PayPal.
I know that's a service that he bought like a little later into its life.
Wait, are you saying that you don't use PayPal for like online purchases? Really?
Never have, not even once.
Really? Wow.
Nope.
Like, so you never bought anything online and you never use PayPal? You just use your card?
Yeah, just put my card in the website.
Interesting.
Like, we have like things like Amazon. I trust Amazon not to have my card information leak.
Okay.
Like you purchase something from Walmart, you can have it shipped or delivered to you nowadays. And also I trust Walmart not to have my debit card information leak. So I never really needed a third-party provider. I never got on eBay, even when eBay was hype. Like back in the day, people would buy PlayStation 3s and resell those like quick as hell.
Right. I'm starting to realize low key that like there's like some very old isms in my head like that I still use. Like I still have like a Yahoo account. I just recently like moved over to Google. Well,
from like Yahoo Answers and shit.
Yeah. Like Yahoo used to be the place to be, man. Like that was so fun. That was like when email was just like, I guess not just kicking up, but like I remember like signing up for Yahoo, and then like me and my brother would just send emails to each other. Like it was just kind of fun. But yeah. But another little like, I guess not breaking news, but nice little like what's it called? I guess celebration. Interstellar turns 8 today.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch it today then.
Interstellar is literally actually, so here's the thing. After what's it called came out? What was the movie that me, you, and Trish saw?
Oh, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. When that movie came out, people were like, okay, this is the new best movie ever. This is my favorite movie ever. I saw it. Yeah. Yeah. I saw it. I was like, okay, it's cool, but it's not my favorite movie ever. So that movie, I give it its praise for letting people have that as his favorite movie now. So that Interstellar can be my favorite movie and everybody else has that as their favorite movie. Because I want Interstellar to be mine. That movie made like so many emotions hit me throughout that movie, man. I felt hype, like sadness, despair. Like, it's very hard to make someone feel like genuine despair. And like Interstellar just nails it all, man. I love that movie.
I think it is Christopher Nolan's masterpiece, so to speak. Like, I think Inception's really good, but I'm pretty sure Interstellar, like, for where Christopher Nolan is today, it seems like that start when he really was trying to experiment and do something new while not moving away from being the character-driven director that he really is. Like, he has really awesome characters that you care about in those films. And in the case of Interstellar, like you really, I forget Matthew McConaughey's character's name, but you really care and feel his pain and the roller coaster emotions that he goes through throughout that story. And that's absolutely amazing. I love Christopher Nolan. He's one of my favorite directors.
Really?
Yes. Because of the Dark Knight trilogy, of course.
True. Right. Well, that's actually a great segue. The Dark Knight. We're going to be talking about the antithesis, Superman. Guess what, everybody? So if you haven't seen Black Adam, which I wouldn't blame you if you didn't.
A lot of people aren't seeing it.
And that's the thing too. I said I was going to see it, but after just seeing like how people were like shitting on it and then just getting kind of exposed to the end credit scene, which end credit scene shows Black Adam sort of taunting this, this hero we've been seeing over, the past, several decades. Henry Cavill is back as Superman, everybody. He's back in the DC universe. It's been, actually, let me look up my notes real quick. It's been almost 11 years since Man of Steel, the last solo Superman film, which is nuts. Mm-hmm. But
holy cow, really?
Yeah, it's been that
11 years. Wow.
It doesn't even really feel that long ago, but looking at the numbers, man, it's been too long, man. But
that's so odd, because I always thought that Batman versus Superman was originally titled Man of Steel 2 Batman versus Superman, and it was considered a Superman movie.
I mean, well, that's why I said a solo film, because it's like right.
But does that mean like Captain America Civil War isn't a Captain America solo film?
I definitely would. I wouldn't consider it a Captain America film. Would you consider it a Captain America film?
I mean, the title like kind of says it.
If you really want to dig into it, I guess you have a point, because like the overall story of, wow, we're going on a whole Civil War tangent right now. It's
yeah, we are.
It's like that whole thing of like Bucky Barnes and like how I'm kind of forgetting the whole Civil War kind of story, but like how he kind of has to fight off like Iron Man at the end, like because he wants to kill Bucky, is like that overall arc of Civil War has like a little bit of it with Captain America's story, but I think it's like a grander thing with the whole like
it most certainly is.
Yeah.
Which is why it was the most enjoyable Captain America. It tied in directly to I think the Avengers before it, and took us to the next Avengers perfectly.
Right. But regarding the whole like Henry Cavill being Superman thing, and like Henry Cavill went on to social media saying, "I wanted to make it official that I am back as Superman, and the image you see in the post and what you saw in Black Adam are a very small taste of what's to come," Cavill says. He also thanks fans. He also thanks fans for his the support and promises that it will all be rewarded for his comeback. But also with that, the whole DCU is changing, because now James Gunn is now the co-CEO of DC Studios, and Cavill is ready to have a quote unquote long discussion with Gunn regarding what they're going to do with Superman. So let's see if I have anything else. Oh yeah, and also with Cavill being Superman again, he's also stepping away from his Netflix production, The Witcher. So actually, I want to ask you about The Witcher first. Were you watching The Witcher, or are you a fan of The Witcher?
Yeah, I was a fan of the show originally, but I'm going to put an asterisk on it, because anybody that watched the first season of that show knew they weren't watching something that was like Game of Thrones quality, right? It was kind of campy in a way, but it was good campy. And you couldn't help but like notice that you had Henry Cavill playing The Witcher on this show that feels like almost B quality at points. And we've learned recently that the reason that Henry Cavill is leaving The Witcher is because the writers hate the source
Dude,
material.
That's crazy. Yeah, I heard
like,
it.
Fire yourself. Quit.
Yes, that's
like,
terrible.
Like, come on. Like, I'm sure that there's another writer, like screenwriter, a group of screenwriters that would have loved to have like the ability to write that IP for Netflix, that love the source material and it's one of their favorite things. But no, we have somebody that's just like, yeah, I'm a factory version of a screenwriter. I feel nothing and I just churn out scripts.
Dude, like I think we need to talk about that on our own separate episode of, I think Hollywood is legitimately going out of the way to hire people that hate their properties. I think that I don't know why that's such a thing now. Like, because I'm pretty sure, like, well, I guess I don't want to speculate, but like the whole thing with what's it called? The Rings of Power, like people were speculating that they were hiring people that probably just hated that series. And it's like and people, I guess, like, I don't want to speculate, but I guess I would say that people just want to see like people their favorite IPs just burn. I guess they just find joy in that, because it's like, why join a production that you hate? Because like you can't go into that with good faith and like make something that's actually great. I think that's wild to me that you can do that to like not even like yourself as like your own credit as a writer to like work on a production, but just like the fans. Like, why would you? Yeah, that's crazy to me.
I feel like it turns writing into a job. You know what I mean? And I understand that writing is a job. It's not just a career or like, you know, the dream job all the time for everybody that's doing it. There are times where you just have to sit there and write something you don't necessarily want to, but why put yourself in that position where you're doing it for 10 episodes annually?
Right.
And that decision to have people on board that hated the IP ran away your star attraction, Henry Cavill. I'm not going to watch Liam Hemsworth in anything, not The Witcher, not in anything. I don't care about watching things with Liam Hemsworth in it. But Henry Cavill, yeah, of course it was interesting because I heard he was nerdy. He liked playing video games, including The Witcher, and reading the books. He was super passionate about it and wanted to give it his all. Like, that's exciting. And now we're just like, here's the replacement buff dude. Right. Like, hope you fans like it. It's like, no. It's wild. You could tell the show was going south with those writers.
And I watched like the first, I don't even know, like first like quarter of that first season. And like, I've never been a huge fan of the Witcher franchise at all. Like, really, like I always really want to get into it. And by the way, they're remaking the first game, which really needed a remake because like I tried to play the game way back in the day. Like the controls are just super outdated, but like they're making a remake. But I just never got into the Witcher IP as a whole. So when I got into like the whole Netflix series, I was like, okay, maybe like a nice little downsized production of just like a very easy way to get into this world. And I watched it, I'm just like, there's something that just never clicked with me. And it's
it's because it's so campy, it feels like. Like there's some parts where they say like the dialogue is just so outlandish. You're like, what? You can't help but like giggle almost just because it's so like corny. But that's why I found it somewhat enjoyable for the first season. I knew it was like over the top. In fact, there's this one scene I'll never forget where I want to look up her name because I'm sure this was a horrible scene to film. Witcher cast. But essentially one of the characters, Yennefer, yes, played by Anya, I can't pronounce that, Chilatra. I'm really sorry, Anya, if I butchered your last name.
Sorry,
really
Anya. Sorry for that.
But she was in this uncomfortable position where she had to like flail around naked, like doing a spell. Like she was completely nude, just flailing. And like it's so comical because it looked like a bad budget porn, like it was so bad. And I was laughing the whole time because it was like, why did they film this? It was like they're like, hey, Game of Thrones has nudity. Okay, we'll show them. And then they filmed this scene.
Right.
I feel like it had no point in really being in there in the way that it was done, and it was so campy and cheesy. But it was enjoyable. Then the second season comes out and you can't keep that going so long. And like I said, you can tell the writers weren't on board with it. But to segue back to Superman real quick. Dude, Henry Cavill is Superman. He is Superman. And
perfect casting,
the thing is, I've never been a huge fan of Superman as a character. Like, I feel like he's kind of overpowered. But that's kind of the point. Like, he really does give humanity kind of a crisis in the fact that he is greater than any god that they've written about in their text. And here comes this man from Kal-El, right?
Yeah.
What's his planet called?
No, actually, I keep getting confused. I don't know if Kal-El is his name or the planet he comes from. I'm pretty sure Kal-El is
his name. Yeah, I forget the planet.
Yeah.
The planet's not Zod. Zod's the villain. Gosh, what is it? I digress. That's really irritating me. I cannot digress. What is that? Krypton, my goodness.
That's so obvious. Yeah, how did we not know that? That's crazy. That was
everybody that's a comic book fan watching our podcast. Like, these guys
are heated right now.
I'm out.
Posers. Oh man.
But yeah, Krypton. Like I grew up watching Christopher Reeves play Superman. And I feel like Christopher Reeves brought like a lot of the heart to the character. And everybody loved Christopher Reeves as Superman. And Henry Cavill, I feel like, has that ability to do that in this day where everybody looks at him and is like, yeah, that's clearly Superman. Like, there's no debating it. And I feel like there's very few actors that you could cast where somebody looks at him and is like, yeah, that's that character. I think like Chris Evans is Captain America. You look at him and it's like, yeah, that's clearly Captain America. The guy that plays Bucky, like, yeah, that's 100% Bucky. Henry Cavill. I don't think we've had something like that with the Batman yet, where you just look at the guy and say, yeah, that's Batman. Maybe Ben Affleck for like 0.5 seconds in Batman versus Superman. But even, Christian Bale, just looking at him, did he look
well, like that's the thing though, it's like
Batman and Bruce Wayne.
Right. So because like at that point, do you really need a Bruce Wayne that looks like Bruce Wayne when he's just like Batmaned up the whole like 80% of the movie? It's like,
Yes. I feel like
yes.
Bruce Wayne,
Okay.
like, okay, I'm about to go in on this, but Batman is like the mirror version of Two-Face because he does actually have two faces first. Like he's Bruce Wayne, the playboy, but also Bruce Wayne, the depressed rich person with like obsessions. You know, like he's absolutely obsessed with solving these crimes, driven by, you know, tragedy. But then you have the inverse where the Batman is like the stable, like the truly stable version of himself, even though he plays a facade where he's this, you know, well put together billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, all this. Like that's really important because it's like you have to play two characters if you're going to play Batman. You have to look like Bruce Wayne and you have to look like Batman. So it's a little difficult.
I'm guessing you didn't like Pattinson as Batman, did you?
I like him as Bruce Wayne.
Okay, well, really?
Batman, God, no. He looked like the twiggiest Batman I've ever seen in my life, dude. No muscle on this man.
Well, that's the thing, though. It's like, well, we're going on so many tangents right now, but I love it. But like the Batman, I love it so much because it's showing more of a trajectory, right? This is the wet noodle Batman, depressed Batman that's like, or depressed Bruce Wayne that's kind of like socially awkward, like. I feel like we're really going to see that launch point in the second film where he's like super confident and he's ready. But going back to Superman one more time, I did want to ask you though. So I know that you're not the biggest fan of the DCEU, but with the news that James Gunn is co-CEO now and Henry Cavill is coming back as Superman, do you have more faith in the DCEU now? Are you more hyped? Are you ready to see what they can do?
How can you not? Like, I think the DCEU did have a lot of the correct pieces in play at first. You know, you had Henry Cavill as Superman. Man of Steel was a solid film to start from. Absolutely was a solid film. Batman vs. Superman most certainly could have been done better, but like we're still going in that direction. And then it just kind of went wrong with Suicide Squad. Wonder Woman was a hit, but everything felt so disconnected, confused, rushed. And then we got, you know, some actual decent films in the Batman, which I'm not sure is canon to the DCEU, probably not. That, you know, makes you think, hey, Warner Brothers can put something together. But then we got the disaster, like, you know, a little late into the summer where everything is wrong, people are being fired. How do you come back from that? Well, you get James Gunn that just made a great Suicide Squad film. Like, it was almost like a comedy. It was hilarious. It was so enjoyable. John Cena absolutely killed it. That film was the highlight of the film. And James Gunn's a smart dude. He's worked in the MCU. He's worked for as the director of Guardians of the Galaxy, which were huge successes and I think added to the longevity of the MCU because they brought in like a quirkiness that was needed at the time as things got a little grimmer leading into Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah. So
James Gunn can do that. He's got, you know, the portfolio, but outside of, you know, these superhero films, a long history as established director making great films that are like surprisingly entertaining. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Slither by James Gunn, but it's wildly good. It's so weird. Like, I'm sure if you watch it, you'd be like, yeah, I did not expect to watch a movie about like worm people, you know, like these little parasitic worm things. And enjoy it, but it was fantastic. So I think he is the perfect person to make the DCEU get serious, to come up with a plan, to sit down with the actors, you know, Dwayne Johnson, Henry Cavill, whoever's going to play Batman, maybe it's still Ben Affleck, say, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is why it's important. And this is how we're going to go about doing it. Can you sign this contract that says, give me 3 standalone films and a Justice League?
Right.
Or, you know, cameo in 2 films, 1 solo, Justice League, whatever. But I think he's the guy that can get it done. Yeah. So how can you not be excited?
Right. And like you just said like serious. And like, because I'm a complete noob in terms of like knowing like the history of like directors. Like my only real like connection with James Gunn is the Suicide Squad and is Guardians of the Galaxy. So like those things I have in common with those 2 movies, that they're very like they're silly in like comedic way, but like and it has like its little tinges of like seriousness. But like now, since me as someone who doesn't know a lot about James Gunn, I'm really curious about like, because the whole DC thing is like it's more serious than Marvel. So I'm very eager to see what he can do and put like his serious hat on and really give us like a story, like a Superman story that's like really good. Cause like you said, like I'm not a big fan of Superman either. Cause he's just a very hard character to write compellingly. Cause it's like he's God. Like he can do whatever, like he can do whatever. So like you have to make a story that has that much weight to it to where like Superman is brought from God to like basically on human level in the sense of like what he has to deal with. So I hope James Gunn can do that. And like I'm pretty optimistic because like Guardians of the Galaxy is still like my top 2 Marvel movies in the MCU to this day. Actually, no. Not to this day, sorry. But like probably top 5 for sure. Yeah. Guardians of the Galaxy bangs. But actually, do you have anything to add more to that?
No, just that I'm excited for the DCEU moving forward. Like I grew up on, the Justice League. I was always a DC guy. It was the MCU that made me kind of lean more towards Marvel just because the MCU has been done so well for so long. So I really do want to see a lot of the DC characters done right. And it's possible. We've seen it done before. Like, look at the Joker. Phenomenal. Chef's kiss. The Dark Knight. Chef's kiss. Man of Steel. Kind of chef's kiss, but still, still good. So yeah, nothing but excitement on my end, man.
For sure. Yeah, I'm super excited as well. But speaking of things not going so well, Caleb, I want you to talk to me about this Tom Brady situation, man. What's going on? What's going on with Mr. Tom Brady, Mr. Retiree coming back?
All right, let me put my drink down because this is a mix of sad, wild. There's a lot of drama. Put down your Kim K tabloids because this is the real tabloid stuff right here. Okay, so I want to begin the story with 3 years ago. You had Tom Brady, New England Patriots, 2019 season, and he's hunting for another ring. He wanted his 7th ring. Patriots and Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, they had 6 rings. So he brings in this guy, Antonio Brown, Antonio Brown is definitively one of the best wide receivers we've ever seen play the game. He was a miracle on the field. He said some wild things like, my biggest regret in retirement is that I couldn't watch myself play. And as cocky and narcissistic as that is, you can't help but say, yeah, because watching you play was pretty dope. Like, I guess you've earned the right to say that. But Antonio Brown had a lot of issues. So the reason that he moved in with Tom Brady, and his wife to join their team on the Patriots was because Antonio Brown was having a lot of issues. Some people have speculated that Antonio Brown has CTE because he's been very eccentric. Like recently he was in Dubai, like flashing people. He's made some really inappropriate comments at the wrong time. Like he called the Raiders general manager a cracker when he was on the Raiders, which was honestly, like, I think that was kind of funny because he was kind of proven right down the line by the fact that there was a
question real quick.
Yeah, what's up?
So going back a little bit, you said Antonio Brown moved in with Tom Brady's family?
Yes.
Yes,
Tom Brady was going to be like a mentor that could help calm him down when he was having a lot of controversy and bring him in. But it's kind of bad because Antonio Brown was being accused of sexual assault at that time. Like that's was making teams say, you know what, we don't care how good you are. We cannot deal with your personality and the problems you bring. Tom Brady's like, listen, I want to win a ring, so I can probably, bring this guy under my wing, show him the ropes, say, hey, this is how you be professional or whatever, or I can just keep you around my house and know that you're not goofing up so I can force you to catch the ball when I throw it on Sunday and we get a Super Bowl championship. Well, it didn't work out with the Patriots, but Tom Brady, for either player, Antonio Brown or Tom Brady. So Tom Brady ended up leaving the Patriots and joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where he immediately had success and won a Super Bowl with Antonio Brown. So they won a Super Bowl. You'd think Tom Brady and Antonio Brown would be, best friends for life, live together. But no, as Tom Brady's career has soured a little, Antonio Brown, who is now retired, has been taking shots at Tom Brady as Tom Brady is going through a divorce. And they're not just like shots like, oh, Tom, you suck. Haha, enjoy divorce. Like Antonio Brown has been insinuating that he had relations with Tom Brady's wife while he was living there. Like he's been dropping some memes that have been quite expressive.
Mm.
And for those that are NFL fans and know anything about Antonio Brown, this is just another thing where you look at this guy and you're like, he just cannot control himself to treat somebody that even helped him out with like a shred of decency. Like, I don't know if you know this, but the way Antonio Brown retired is in the middle of a game. He ripped off his clothes and he ran like off, like deuces, pieced out in the middle of the game.
Torn his clothes
Not
off?
completely naked. He still had his pants on, thank goodness. But
Okay.
like, we were all on our seats watching that, thinking he could go out.
He has the potential, right?
He's that guy.
Right.
He is that guy. And like, I'll show you. Hang on, I'm going to drop this and screen share. I want to show you the hit he took. This is why a lot of people think like they give Antonio Brown a pass. It's because they do think he's dealing with CTE from playing football. And we all know that football is a dangerous sport to play. You know, you take a lot of shots to the head, can get concussions, and that can, you know, build up over time. But I want to show you this hit, like why people insist that Antonio Brown is not like in his right state of mind and doing all this.
Let's see it.
Gonna watch our advertisements, courtesy YouTube.
Okay.
Turn it down just a little bit.
We've been on the road.
There you go. Perfect.
Roethlisberger from the pocket, middle of the field, incomplete.
Oh, it's a little laggy. Oh wait.
Flag does come in. Went to the
Yeah,
So
I
you see
barely
like Antonio Brown down here, like they're gonna play it in slow motion, but it's one of the worst hits I've ever seen.
It's gonna put the Steelers.
damn ever seen.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Like when they show it to you in slow motion, you'll realize just how dangerous this hit is.
Perfect. It's coming across the
Like
field.
it's the type of
I
hit
thought
that, you
it
know,
was
does
him.
put somebody in the
And
hospital.
Right.
on the coverage is it 55 or 37.
Fast forward when they played it in slow motion.
Personal foul on the sideline. The
Oh
whole
no.
like two Vontez perfect and yes. Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
wait, hold on. All right, there we go. Yeah, perfect. Did he get his neck snapped?
No, a lot of people were
That's
you know, worried about it at the time. Like, did he just break his neck? Did he
Yeah,
die
that looked.
field? Like, football is a dangerous game. You know, you can get hit wrong, and like that's it. It's kind of like boxing in that sense. And a lot of people were worried for him. But like I said, it's that specific play why a lot of people give Antonio Brown the benefit of the doubt. But I got to ask you, how do you feel about the situation? If you were in Tom Brady's shoes and you're going through a very publicized divorce, like, how do you feel about Antonio Brown, like taking shots, like saying, you know, he was getting at your wife, even with, you know, like knowing he may have issues? Like, how do you feel about it?
I mean, you know, the first example that pops in my head again, for some reason, was the whole Will Smith and, you know, Jada Smith situation. And like, as husband and wife, how do you navigate that situation? And whether or not it's real or not, I guess if I was Tom Brady, I would just try my, actually not try my best. I would just keep, like, because it's not people's business, right? I know Antonio Brown is on here on social media saying, hey, I don't know what he said, but I'm assuming it's something along the lines of like, hey, I effed your wife or something like that. Like, as Tom Brady, like, you be the bigger man, which is, it's harder for me, which I'm going to reverse the question on you in a minute because, you know, you're married. And it's like, yeah, for me is I would do my best to just keep it private. Like, you know, also another situation going on right now. So the new Drake and 21 Savage album, or mixtape or whatever it is, just dropped. And then like, I don't know if you knew, but like a couple months ago, back in, I just know almost a year ago now, back in December or January, Kanye and Drake squashed their beef and then performed at a Amazon Music concert, right? And then now in a bar on his new album, he was basically saying that the only reason why I did that was so that I could get something out of you, Kanye, something like that. And then Kanye took wind of that lyric and was like, "Hey man, like it's whatever now. Like I don't care." And it's like something along the lines of that. But like it's good on Kanye because like, bro, like how many times can you just go back to this Drake like spiral and it's like, dude, like in the cycle and just keep it private. That's all you need to do. So like from Tom Brady, like bro, like I don't actually, like, what's his like reception to these comments right now? Like, how is he handling?
So it's interesting. He's handling it kind of like how you said. He's, not mentioned it. He's not given any attention to what Antonio Brown has been saying on Twitter, like through memes or indirectly, to stir up this controversy. And I think that's the right thing to do because one, Tom Brady is in the middle of a football season. There's a 53-man team that he is a member of that relies on him to show up and be good in his game. And if he's out here, Twitter beefing and they're 3-5, like, players on the team may get frustrated thinking that their leader isn't, 100% in the game. And with how low Antonio Brown's comments are, I mean, this man took you into his home, so you could get right, like have one of the best examples for, sportsmanship, kind of. He has his moments. They all do. But like, for sportsmanship, for, being a professional, like being a professional GOAT is what Tom Brady could have shown him. And Antonio Brown is spitting in his face for it. Like Tom Brady got Antonio Brown onto 2 different teams, got him 2 different paychecks when nobody wanted to deal with him anymore.
Right.
Like that is how low I think of Antonio Brown's comments. Like it's like being stabbed in the back when you help somebody out. Like it's never a good look.
And I have to ask too, is the wife public about this at all? Like, what is she saying right now?
No, like both Tom Brady and Gisele are, it seems like they're handling their separation amicably, which I think is a good thing to see in this day and age, because I know that a lot of people that are celebrities can turn their divorces or separations into like whole, show trials in the media and in the press. They leak things to TMZ about the other person. So I think that this is good because Tom Brady still has kids and they haven't even graduated high school. So for the kids' sake, I think handling things this way is always the best thing. But do you know why like people are speculating that they separated, Tom Brady and his wife Gisele?
I have no what happened.
All right, so Tom Brady has played 23 years in the league. He is 45 years old. That means he is about 5-7 years past. Yes, he's like 5-7 years past like most quarterbacks play. Like nobody really plays until they're 45 unless you're a kicker. Like it's really difficult to play that long. But him playing that long has allowed him to capture every single record. Excuse me, every single one. And after his last Super Bowl win with the Bucks, it's second team he's won a championship with, 7 total championships, every passing record. He's definitively the GOAT. Nobody should be arguing with you whether or not Tom Brady has proven that he is the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. So it came time, like his wife said, you're old, you're 44 years old, you got the ring. When are you going to retire and, come home and spend time with your family? Right. And Tom retired after last year. He hung it up in January, told the fans like, this is it. His last touchdown pass was selling for millions of dollars. The whole circus hype of what is the league going to look like without Tom Brady? But he came back and everybody knew that his wife was not a big fan of that. Like she used to, do whole like ceremonies for good luck before his games. And it came out that she just wasn't doing that anymore. And that she wasn't flying with him to go see him at the game. So you knew that he made a choice to keep playing, even though it could have had, consequences with his marriage. And it seems like it did. But I got to ask you, because I personally think some people are a little too hard on Tom for, wanting to come back. Like they say, hey, you should have just listened to your wife and quit, yada, yada, yada. But I talked to my wife about this. I said, hey, is it like ever a thing in a marriage, like in a partnership, where if I recognize you were the greatest in the world at something, everybody recognizes, but I tell you for how I feel, you got to give it up.
Yeah.
Like, is that something that you do? And if you were that person, like you were that good, like Jordan, you were the greatest podcaster in the world. You got your spouse and she's like, yo, you spend too much time podcasting. It's time to call it a day. Do you call it a day on something that you're the GOAT at? Like, how do you walk away from being the greatest?
Right. Here's the big thing, right? Well, first of all, like Gisele, like you are tripping. Like, I mean, here's the thing. I'm not a huge sports guy, but like taking your word for it, like he's the greatest quarterback, or he's a quarterback, right?
Mhm.
He's the greatest quarterback of all time. How has you as his partner coming in? How long ago have they been married?
I think they've been married since 2009, so about 13 years.
And he got into the league when?
2001.
Okay. Was he even the GOAT back then when they got married?
Or excuse me, not 2001. 2001 is when he won his first Super Bowl,
Okay.
his first championship. He came in 99. But
All
he
right.
wasn't the GOAT until, it was always up for debate
Mhm.
to some extent. But I would say around 2007 when they had an undefeated season to 2017, whenever he won like his fifth Super Bowl.
Right.
Like somewhere in there is when he reached GOAT status, but everybody knew he was one of the best in the league around that time. Whenever they got married, he was one of the best.
All right. Well, despite that, anyway, like you said, if you see that your partner is so good at something, especially if it makes this much money, like I had to say, like there's something very, I hate using this word, but like it's it's 2022 buzzword, but like it's very toxic. Like, how can you sit up there and kind of like ridicule your husband for doing something not only that he likes, but something that's providing for your family? Like what is, I guess it's like taken away from the time he can spend with his kids and the wife and like going on vacation and stuff like that. But like, it's just like, and I'm sure as the kids will be like, hey, like where's my dad? But like, and I guess as a man for Tom Brady, you have to make that decision whether or not you're going to keep doing that and have your kids maybe for like the worst case scenario resent you. But as they grow up, I'll be very surprised if they can't understand, bro, my dad was the GOAT and like he was doing his thing. And like that's just a part of just growing up too. But like, you really have to look at Gisele, like what is wrong with what is like, why are you trying to ridicule your husband for doing this? But like I had another point too. I totally forgot. It's like, and like going into a relationship, I'm sure back in 2000, you said 2001 is when they got together, or 2004?
2009 is when they married.
2009, yeah. It's like there had to have been some discussion there, just like I'm sorry, wife, like I'm this is my thing. This is you. If you're coming into this relationship, we're gonna start something together. You have to realize that this is what I do. And it's like you can't take that away from me. And I'm sure like, all these years later, I'm sure that they've talked about him eventually doing this and getting out of the game. But it's like, come on, like, yeah, it's always some back and forth. But I did want to ask you though, is this the major reason why they're getting, divorced, or is it because Antonio Brown is alluding that Antonio Brown actually did have relations with his wife?
I don't think Antonio Brown did. I think Antonio Brown was just being petty personally. I think it has completely to do with the fact that he's, 45. And like I said, most quarterbacks are, out of the league before they're even 30, but the good ones stick around until about 40 and they call it a day. Drew Brees was another one that was really good like Tom Brady, and he just hung it up 2 years ago at 41. So he could go be with his family. I do want to say this. I want to give Gisele the benefit of the doubt in that playing professional football is a huge time commitment. So the NFL season runs from August until, February, if you make it the whole way, all the way to the Super Bowl. That's about 6 months right there of time. And during that time, you don't really spend any time with your family and your friends. Like, that's why you see players, like, sometimes when they're blown off steam, they're at the club. They're doing something that they can do for a night and then go back, rest their head and then start the process all over, because you're studying game film. You're studying the playbook. You're working out all the time. Then you're going to practice, Tuesday, Wednesday through Saturday, playing on Sunday, Monday, Thursday. You're gone. Like, it's kind of crazy as a military vet, but Tom Brady said that football is like a military deployment this year. He actually said that, and he got some heat for it because people were like, how dare you compare the privilege of being a millionaire athlete to, going to Iraq or something. But I understood what he meant, because in the military, deployment means you're deployed from wherever your home base is. So you can be deployed in Iraq, you can be deployed in Japan, you can be deployed wherever. It just means you're somewhere that is not home for whatever mission's purpose. And I feel like, yeah, the NFL is kind of like that, because they're traveling around. They're just not home, and their mission's purpose is go win the Super Bowl. You're there to win it all. And you just
Mhm.
don't have that time. And like, I'm sure for a lot of families, it can be too much for, 23, 24, 25 years to have to do that. But, to give Tom Brady the benefit of the doubt, or just, I feel like anybody this kind of benefit of the doubt, I don't feel like it's uncommon for some parents to work a lot,
Right.
like the children or spouses. I feel like that's very common. I feel like most, if you go to the Midwest, like find some factory town, ask them, hey, where's your dad at? Oh, he's at the factory. He'll be back on Saturday. I see him on the weekends. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So like that kind of stuff just isn't uncommon. And I feel like her wanting to give it up, retire at 45 as a multimillionaire
Right.
is a huge privilege that the average person doesn't have.
Mhm.
So like, which privilege do you want? Like, to be an early retiree by normal person standards with way more wealth? Or
Right.
do you keep like furthering your records? Because I'm sure Tom Brady is that competitive Michael Jordan type where he thinks, if I hang it up now, in 10 years, there's going to be this guy that's as good as me that's going to pass my records because he's going
Mhm.
to stick around longer. Maybe he's single and doesn't have somebody to come home to. So all he has is the game, like a monk. He's
Right.
dedicated to the
Right.
craft.
Well, I did want to ask you real
So
quick though.
what's up?
I think you looked up his net worth. How much is like Tom Brady's dynasty? Like, is he like, can he actually comfortably retire and like make his generations afterward like really like wealthy? Is he like
Oh
that?
yeah, he's way past that. He's worth $250 million. And
Okay.
also him and his wife, one of the things that they're going to have to do with their divorce, which was going to be the most complicated process of their divorce, apparently, is that they have so many properties under their names that they either rent out or own and make money off of. So he's got money generating every second. He doesn't even need to be playing football to generate an income. So yeah, he's going to retire with more comfort than most people, probably has a private jet, like it
Right.
really does.
Well, and I did want to ask you like again, like flipping it on you, like how does like I guess like we don't have to get like super personal, but like talking about your relationship with you and your wife, like how do you guys like maneuver around doing things each other's passionate about, but maybe you're averse to it or she's averse to it. Like I guess give us a tips because I'm not married, man, and then like give our viewers some tips on how you guys kind of go through those situations.
This is going to sound like a knock on Gisele,
Mhm.
but I can never personally fathom looking at my wife and seeing her doing something that makes her happy, fulfilled, and that she gets like social credit points essentially from all of her peers for being so good at it and telling
Mm.
her, no, stop that for me. Like
Right.
that, I could never imagine being that selfish. And I don't imagine she would be that type of person either. Like if, I can't imagine her being like, hey, as a journalist, don't go cover that story. It freaks me out, knowing that she knows how I feel about my field and what I'm passionate about, that she would never do something like that. It's
Well,
an understanding.
what if you decided to be, hey, I think Ukraine isn't getting enough coverage right now. What is your wife saying then?
It's interesting because we talked about that. Like, what if I was a war correspondent or something? And she's not a big fan of it,
Mhm.
but I have persuasive methods. Essentially, I like appeal to like some old timey, like ancient world honor code system. It's like, listen, we're all gonna croak someday. Do you want your husband to croak like doing something amazing, like was getting
Mm.
information for the world to see about like some atrocity or some war somewhere, doing that? Or, he just dies of old age someday,
Right.
like after he drinks a pint. Like which sounds grander? And of course it's kind of a joke, but is it really?
So you're one of the live fast or die young types, huh?
Never said I wanted to die young. It's just there's so many things about this world. This is why I chose to be a journalist, that I want to be there for. Like, I'm sure
Okay.
you remember in 2020 when the pandemic was hitting, like going to like one of the George Floyd protests, right? And like to be there as a journalist or to be there as a protester, whichever, both of it felt like you were kind of living history. Like you were there, a part of something that was a really big deal,
Right.
you know, and there's so many events like that all around the world. Why wouldn't you want to see it with your own eyes? Because somebody else is going to tell you about it with their eyes. So
Right.
why not mine first?
100%. I like you said that. It's literally like that's one of the core things about journalism too. It's just like just being part, not even being part of history, but living in history. Those very special moments where you sit there like, wow, this is history. You can either be a part of it, or you sit at home and not do anything, right? But yeah, do you have anything else to add about the Tom Brady situation, or?
No, I do not. Like, I think it's, I think, like I said earlier, I'm glad that both of them are handling it well, not giving like Antonio Brown or other comments like any light of day, so that way they can amicably do this for their kids. So I think that's just what's for the best. Who knows? Maybe you see Tom Brady back next year, or maybe he actually does retire and fix this, fix his marriage. We'll see.
And ending all this topic real quick, I do want to get just one more solid, like, since you are in a happy relationship with your wife, I do want you to give me and like the viewers just like one more little solid relationship advice kind of thing. Especially like, I get it doesn't have to regard this as, I guess it would be better if you regard this situation, but like, how do you compromise? Like what does compromise look to you in your relationship?
Have you ever seen like Andrew Tate relationship advice?
Yes.
Just do the opposite of that.
Okay.
If he says like be a dick and show her that you're worth something, like be compassionate, be empathetic. Marriage and relationships are partnerships, and everybody's got their own little story going in that partnership, right?
Yeah.
Like I finished my degree in journalism. My wife is working on her bachelor's and then master's in social work. And that's what she wants to do. That's our individual stories. But when we come together, you got to find ways to come together 100%. And the only way that's done is through communication, empathy, compassion.
That's very solid advice. Well, Gail, I have to ask you a question. Do you
What's
know
up?
any man that's worth more than $250 million?
I can name a few.
Okay. Well, I gotta reach you to the case because I want to talk about Mr. Beast, aka Jimmy Donaldson. He's apparently about to be valued at $1.5 billion. Well, that's a bit of a stretch because here's what is actually happening. So apparently he's asking for 150 million in funding for his enterprise. And that 150 million would push him up to $1.5 billion in the valuation. And just getting into questions first, is this the first billionaire from YouTube?
He's got to be.
Yeah.
Like he has to be. There's no way he isn't, because I'm finding less and less people who don't know who Mr. Beast is. And the algorithm feeds him to everybody. And his like videos get millions, like 100 million views, right?
Yeah. And I actually wanted to bring that up too, is that like talking about the NFL, there was this TikTok. I wish I would have watched it more so I can get everything that was said. But like, I don't know how much people pay for advertisements around the Super Bowl, but like they pay a lot of money, like millions of dollars for that, right? And the Super Bowl only gets like what, 90 million views, something like that. I just looked it up. I think it was like 90 million, something like views, right? A good chunk of Mr. Beast's videos have like 200 million views. And we were talking about it in a podcast some time ago. And I was like, I had to double check his subscriber count to say, is that really 100 and something million subscribers? Like I never heard of that. It's like, it's nuts, but like his evaluation is worth more, arguably, than something like the Super Bowl, which is completely nuts to say. Because this going from like the roots of YouTube and just the internet, who could have like really, I mean, I guess if you kind of just boil it down, like YouTube has the potential just like to show how much of like a character you can be, like maybe like even an actor. But like if you sat me down like 10 years ago, 15 years ago and said, hey, like a YouTuber can be a billionaire, like I wouldn't have believed you. Like this is such a huge stepping stone for like this internet content in general. But we were talking before the podcast about some of the implications of this, and you had some really good insight on it. So I want you to sort of share that with us again about the whole like metaverse and like.
Oh, well, it's just people are finding miraculous ways to make money on the internet. and it's constantly evolving. And like you compared Mr. Beast's episodes to the Super Bowl, and I think that really is a good comparison, because you can have just as many people sitting down watching something on YouTube as a major cultural event. And that's just, the tip of the spear. Like you brought up the metaverse things, like that's only going to change the game even further. Like imagine when some of these like YouTubers that you see like Mr. Beast are like shows in a metaverse Las Vegas, and you have routinely 1 million people wandering around this metaverse where they can watch these shows. Like there's, and it seems like almost like an infinite amount of ways that you can make money through the internet. Like there's always dollars changing hands, always advertisers willing to pay. And I said before the show, it's like, do we even really need to go to space anymore? It's because it's like we invented space, and that is what the internet is. So 10, 15 years ago, we were on Dave Days, Philip DeFranco, Ray William Johnson, Z+3 on YouTube. And it was small, and these guys were getting money. They started having like their own awards programs for YouTuber of the Year and stuff like that. But to think like, oh, it's going to be worth $1 billion, there's a lot of things that are like that in this day and age. And people like Mr. Beast, whether you love him or hate him, was ahead of the curve, like realized the potential that something like YouTube had. Like for the audience at home, think about like TikTok. Think about all the ways that you can make money on TikTok. Somebody like Andrew Tate figured it out, and there's loads of other content creators figuring it out. And like, I'm not trying to give too much praise to Tate. Like, I think he sucks, that, but it's just the fact. Right. Like, it is a fact that you can make not just a living, but live quite well through these different websites if you know how to use them properly.
Right. 100%. And I just want to go back to like the whole, like his come up, like Mr. Beast's come up. Like, I remember I was watching a TikTok and him explaining his story. He was just like a very average sort of telling of like the high school story. Like he just hated classes. He just couldn't pay attention. He hated just sitting down. And like once he like graduated high school, eventually went into community college, like his mother forced him to go to school because she didn't want him pursuing YouTube like that. So he said, okay, hey, I'll go to school. But he went to school and he just sat in the parking lot. He was like making his like YouTube, or I guess he was like planning, making his editing, maybe his YouTube content in the parking lot on his laptop. He is such a, and when I heard his description of like how his mentality in school, I know a lot of kids, especially nowadays, can really relate to him. And like going off in a little tangent, I think it's a little bit kind of scary in my opinion, because like I know that YouTube is the most sought after job in this like the day and age now. Like what kids want to do is be YouTube channel stars, whatever. And it's like, while that's fine, it's like I see a future where everybody just drops what they're doing. Like, okay, like I'm not going to school anymore. I want to do this YouTube thing, this Twitch thing, and like do it full time. And it's like, I don't think people realize how hard it is to be like a big YouTuber on Mr. Beast's scale or a PewDiePie scale or like whoever the big Twitch streamer or whoever it is. It's like there's so like I can totally get like back in the day of like you being in that right place at the right time, but like the luck you have to just come up now and filter through the millions of people who also want to be this like a YouTube like sensation is like I hate the thought of kids dropping like school, college, and like going through those routes and like very safe traditional routes, even if you had to like do a 9 to 5 or whatever. But like I get how the life of a YouTuber looks so luxurious, but man, like I just hate the vision of the future I have of like kids is like not going for, I guess, a safe route for the YouTube grind. That's not even very likely to even pay out. And I just see it so like the worst case scenario, just like a whole bunch of people just I don't want to say it, but like it is like it's very scary to me. I don't know if you have that same thought of like there's people that's pursuing that. What do you think?
Actually, I think I may have a little bit of an opposite like worry. Like my worry is that there are kids out there that could, make a fantastic channel that, would bring in loads of money, but they have parents that are convinced it's not a real job, so they'll never let them entertain it when they're younger and try and get good at it. Like, that's why I feel like some of these like YouTube channels are like, it's like a playground for rich kids almost. Like, you go on TikTok and how many times you see those rich kids that have no creativity, but they're out here making videos with millions of views because it's like something like, I'm using my dad's Lambo to, you know, pick up gold diggers and then tell them, ha, you're a gold digger, here's your shovel, and then I drive off. And it gets like the engagement from like, you know, incels, but it gets them money because like, you know, there's some dude that's jaded by some woman out there that wants to see, you know, women get it. And that's the type of videos they watch. You know, and I think the Paul brothers are another good example. You know, they came from like a privileged household that afforded them a lot of time to experiment and do whatever.
Right.
And I'm not sure if Mr. Beast is in that boat, but like to become a Mr. Beast, he needed a lot of time. Like he needed, you know, he most certainly needed somebody else to help pay for his meals early on, whether it was his parents that was, you know, just feeding him or whatever, to afford him that time. Like, you do need to treat it like a job for it to pay off. There's no other way around it. It's not like, oh, I'm going to, you know, make this clip on Call of Duty, put it on TikTok. The next thing you know, I'm the biggest COD streamer. Like, no, like those guys that are COD streamers, even, they put in hours into just editing a video. And yeah, I think a lot of them are corny, lame, and they're not very creative. But that's just because there's so much out there. And you said earlier, you feel like you're worried about kids en masse giving up everything. And then we're like, well, who's going to, you know, work in the coal mines because everybody's trying to be a YouTuber.
Right.
But I feel like we're kind of already there. Like, I feel like we're kind of already seeing it where you do have people that recognize, like, yeah, I'm not a privileged guy. I can't just sit around and make YouTube videos. But what I can do is after my shift, I can work on a podcast.
Yeah, and that's perfect.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
Because think about what this means. Like, we're all kind of making content for each other. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's like, I think, yeah, finding that balance, not quitting your day job, not quitting your responsibilities, and doing, you know, your online thing, like that's beautiful. Because like, one is someone that you actually kind of like wanting, that you care for it, but also it is not as destructive as dropping everything in your life and doing this that's so like unstable. Because imagine that like some kid was just like, hey, like you build out this plan to show your parents, like, okay, mom, I'm going to stream this time of day, like I'm going to upload at this time of day, whatever. You have this plan for the next 4 years, the same amount of time you would go through college. By the end of that 4 years, they have nothing to show for it. Imagine how like soul crushing that is. So now I know like the whole thing is like, oh, you're not, like, life isn't this progressive plan. Like, you don't have to be at the same point as other people, but at the same time, like, I mean, maybe not wasted, because that there are some skills that you probably apply to like a production job, maybe, depending on how far you get to it. But like, I feel like you could have spent those 4 years, got a little degree in something, and then got like the safe path. Now, there's something about that where kids just think that, I feel like I sound like an old head right now, but like, it's literally just, I just don't like that fact that people are just dropping everything for that, when there's a safer path that you can go. You know what I'm saying?
You know, I feel like those people that drop everything are the ones that are less likely to make it, right?
Yeah.
Like, if there's one thing I feel like I've noticed over my 28 years of life, is that the people that are, you know, going to break big, are going to have a lot of successes in life, are people that are like relentlessly hard workers. They didn't
100%.
drop anything to pick up their podcast. They slept 3 hours and made their podcast after, you know, a 16-hour shift. And then once they had enough saved up, they dedicated more time, like moved to a different job or whatever, so they could have time to focus on whatever else they're enterprising. But they're very enterprising people. And like, I feel like these are the people that make it. So if you're out here like, oh, I can't juggle a job and podcast, like, you're probably just not the person that's going to do it until you know, work into that like discipline or productivity mindset that's honestly required for it. Because once you're at that point where YouTube, TikTok, etc., could be like a full-time job, that's what it means. Full-time job. What is a full-time job in the United States? 40 hours a week minimum. You know what I mean? And if it's like trying to tell somebody, I'm a writer, but you only write here and there sporadically throughout the year. Like, to be a writer means I sit down every single day and I have a whole process that allows me to write. And that whole process, including the writing, takes up loads of time. Because the thing is, you're competing against that guy that's taking 10, 12 hours out of their day to study some old novel or like read Shakespeare all day so they can sit down and, create the best screenplay or be the best playwright of all time in this day and age. That's what you're up against. So if somebody wants to come out here and like make a podcast or like be on YouTube and make it big, I feel like you just have to put in the discipline and the work ethic for it. You have to treat it like a full-time job.
100%. But yeah, I was going to ask you, like, so, one day when you have your own little like Caleb Jr. or whatever, like, and then like, say, he or she finishes high school, and he's like, Dad, Mom, I really want to pursue the streaming thing. I have this plan right now. I want to dedicate at least a year of my life. I want you guys to support me. I want you guys to pay for my food. I want you guys to pay my bills. But what I will do in return is that I will dedicate myself to this streaming and internet lifestyle. And if I don't get anything within the year, I will, pursue a real life thing. Like, how would you navigate that with your family?
I don't know. Maybe tell them to pitch it to me like I'm an editor or a potential angel investor. And I'll tell them if I think their idea sucks or not. Like, I feel like maybe it's not a good idea to always coddle kids and tell them like what they did was great. If you want them to actually be successful, I feel like you do have to levy criticism. But if they're your kid, of course you do it with like love. Like, you're not gonna be like, wow, that's dumb.
Awful idea.
Get away from me. You don't do it like that.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, just
what about you though? Like, I'm curious. Like, what about you? How would you do it? Like, your kid says, hey, I want to be a full-time podcaster. What do you do?
I think what you said is beautiful, man. Like, I think you like just finding a way to really do what you need to do and doing what you want to do is like this is beautiful like mixture of like showing that you want it, but also just like it's just a really good story for you. It's just good character progression, like building your character up. Because like we all can fall into like that temptation of doing what we want to do all the time, but like we can't do that. I think that's a huge problem with younger generation is that the feeling always trumps their reasoning. Like my thing is that you always have to do what you need to do. I don't care what anybody says, like, even like the excuse of, oh, I wasn't born into this world, so like I don't have to take in I wasn't chosen to be born, so like I don't have to take this responsibility. I'm like, bro, like you have to get out of your own ass, man. Because I just can't stand the thought of people not thinking they don't have responsibilities to do. And like I'm not even saying that I haven't fallen to that, because like I think every human does. We all do. We all fall into those times where we always prioritize what we want to do, but like finding that balance and really striking that, like what we're doing, like guys, like we're really like finding ourselves in life with our careers, but we're also putting that time to make this content because we actually genuinely like this pop culture stuff and like we like talking about it. Like we're actually genuinely passionate about it. So like I think for my kid, going back to your question, like I say no, you're not doing this thing full time. But what I will do is that I will support you in every way possible into building up. Like I have a nice little stream station right now, all built off me. Like I've worked for all this for myself, but like if I was a parent, I would legitimately like build up that empire for them and like be like their number one supporter. But while they have to, do the critical things like support the family in their own way, get a job, go to school, do all that. And like, we're perfect. And if it just so happens that you blow up, hey, that's perfect. And you also, that's another big thing. It's just like, because I've been working ever since I was 15. And it's like going from different jobs. And I just couldn't think of the person I would be if I didn't have those critical experiences at a job, at school.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like, those are character defining moments, like working I remember like my big like goal of working my first job, which was retail, JCPenney. It was like during the holiday season because I really wanted a PC. I know that's pretty childish because like after like a couple months after I got my PC, I just quit. I just wanted to game all day. Well, I was a kid. Okay, give me some slack. But like going through those experiences gave me so much perspective on the world. So imagine those kids. I feel bad for some of the people that I went to school with in terms of like high school and even maybe even college. They didn't have to get a job. Imagine going through all those years, not having to get a job, like not even really taking on responsibility just to get out of that college environment and then going to their first job. Like I couldn't imagine the culture shock that someone would feel at that point of life. Because like I said, working at 15, I know what it's like. Work like being in those, you don't want to go to work today and all that other stuff. But I just went on a whole like little rant. But like I think I think you agree with me in those ways though. Like finding your needs and wants and really, combining those.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. And like the life experience that working certain jobs like brings you to. I don't know if you know this. The reason why I joined the military and the Marine Corps is because I worked in the factory. It was such a soul crushing experience. I was like, you know what? I think potentially going to Iraq and getting blown up sounds preferable to this actually.
Wow.
And I enlisted pretty quick. And you mentioned like people in high school and college that like don't have that experience. And I have to say, I'm a little bit jaded because I know those types, like what they end up being. So there's this writer, Max Landis, right? Screenwriter. He's, I think, canceled currently because he was credibly accused of sexual assault. But this person grew up as a rich kid, right? Very privileged. Dad was like a producer or had already made it in Hollywood. And all they needed to do to become a screenwriter was dedicate the immense amount of free time to, writing screenplays and watching film and television programs so they could, understand the craft even better. And then they, broke in, made the movie Bright with Will Smith. They wrote that. And that's the one thing I think that sucks about it is because even though we do have like these experiences, I do notice that sometimes like those people that are not working at all because they don't have to whenever they're in school, what they do is they use that free time to further themselves in another way. And it's an unnatural amount of free time that like the average person just doesn't have because we, had to work those jobs to, help the family out or to support yourself or whatever.
Right. And like even going like building off of that, like think of the work that his father probably had. I mean, I don't know how deep their generation goes in terms of wealth, but like maybe his father really had to, do what we said and like put in those hours of doing what he needs to do and building up to what he needs and to what he wants to do. And then that the product of that is that he was able to afford that his child or his children, I don't know how many children he has, but like affording his children a life of where they have the privilege to do that. And like even that gives my respect. Because even like you said, like I get maybe like a little jaded, maybe a little jealous that they were able to get that much free time and then, build their career off of that. And maybe even like of course, their connections with that their father has and like get them that connect. But yeah, it's like, I think it's all based off of just putting in that work, man. Like I said, like, I just don't see how people can really function without getting those 4 moments. Like building that shell of like just BS and like going like just like the sleepless nights, like the very short, like little 5-hour minuscule sleeps, and going on another like 20-hour thing of working and doing what you need to do. Is like that builds character, man. Like that's my big thing here is like build character. And like going back to Mr. Beast for a second, like that guy, I don't know how much free time he has, but like I don't know if you heard like his process of how he built up his career, but like he literally sat down, got a group of his friends together and literally studied the hell out of YouTube. Like even to the point where he was analyzing thumbnails and like writing down like the brightness level of each one to see which one like has the most what's it called, retention. Like he really studied this thing to a T. And look where he is, a billionaire off of YouTube. Like he put in that work. And like I just want to say, Mr. Beast, congratulations, man. Like you deserve it. And going all this time without I haven't focused on like his stories and like whatever he's doing, but like I don't think a single scandal, drama, like nothing like that. And just basically just spreading a whole bunch of positivity. But it's like that's
I don't know. I think the scandal is his content.
You think so?
And I know that sounds wild because how could somebody be like a bad person for giving away free stuff? But there's something about like watching his videos that gives me like Squid Game vibes. And it's not just that he, recreated Squid Game. It was like that he recreated it without like what was the source material like? Like you're literally putting yourself into the role of the villain, like in real life, with the recreation of Squid Game for one of his episodes. There's times like I'm watching his content. I was like, oh, this is cool. Maybe this guy wins a house. Like, way to go, regular person. Like, you just got a huge break in life. And they're like, oh, you have no idea how much this means to me. And Mr. Beast is like, yeah. Like, and it's like, wow, he cannot relate to this person that he's hooking up whatsoever. And the reason why we're watching his video is like the same reason people watch like The Price is Right, to see that regular person just like go ape shit crazy over the luck and success that they just had. Honestly, just luck. And there's something that just doesn't sit right with me sometimes when watching his videos. It feels like, okay, this is going to be a harsh comparison. I'm going to tell you, this is going to be some controversial comparison right here. All right, but there's a video. It's one of the oldest videos in the entire world of a French colonialist in Vietnam throwing bread to like the little children in Vietnam that were being like colonized, and they were super poor and like starving. So they're like scrounging for this like little bits of bread that she's like throwing to them. She's wearing like this beautiful, French Victorian gown, and they're in, burlap sacks. And sometimes when I'm watching his videos, that's the vibe I get.
You have a good point. Like, he definitely does give that vibe, especially now with his like more money centric videos. Is that he really is sort of like that the view of like, if you just like spread a whole bunch of money, like you have a whole bunch of people, they're gonna fight for that cash, and like just kind of like rats in a way. And it's like for him to show that sort of a side of humanity in a way, like he is this like kind of huge figure, like kind of
like a puppet master.
Yeah, like right. And it's like it is kind of in a way like demented, right? But I maybe it's like his facade, but I feel like he is such a positive guy for the in the net sort of point of view. Like, I think he's a net good guy. I think he spreads a lot of positivity, and like for who he is and like what he's done is like for him, like I said, like to not get into like like a twit longer situation or something like that, like where his power hasn't gotten to his head in 2022. Like, yeah, he has my kudos for that for sure.
He's hanging out with Dwayne Johnson now on like premiere for Black Adam. He was doing a lot of promotional stuff for it. I saw it on TikTok. So yeah, he's moving up into the big leagues. Like, it's so crazy to see like some of these streamers and YouTubers are hanging out with actors. And I remember whenever, like I told you earlier, like they had like YouTube awards way back in like the Ray William Johnson era, but it felt like those awards are like some B discount stuff because nobody would hire, Ray William Johnson to be in their movie back in the day. Like they were, still like bottom echelon, like, oh, you get 2 million views, yip-de-doo, like I'm looking for my DiCaprio or whatever. But now they're in the big leagues. You know what I mean? To be big on YouTube is like to just be big. Like you could command celebrity. Like I would not doubt if Mr. Beast is out about, TMZ's gonna start wanting to keep tabs on him.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like that's where we're at. And I think that's crazy because it's only been 12 years since 2010. Like only been 12 years. And like that's how fast it all happened. No, that's just, I always reference back to 2010 with YouTube because I feel like that's when it was really starting to like come up. Like really starting to come up because it's just before that K-pop video that blew up.
Oh, Gangnam
Style?
Yeah.
I'm sure you remember watching that back in the day. First 100%. Billion hits on YouTube.
Right. 100%. But moving on to our last topic of the podcast, we're going to be talking about some Tim Burton. It looks like he's done with Disney, which kind of good for him. But during a press conference at the Lumiere Festival in France, Burton compared working with Disney to a horrible big circus, going on to say that it's going to be very homogenized, very consolidated, there's less room for different types of things. And he's all connecting this to his work with his last, I think his last project was Dumbo. So y'all then went on to say, I was hired and fired like several times throughout my career there. The thing about Dumbo is that's why I think my days with Disney are done. I realized that I was Dumbo, that I was working in this horrible big circus, and I needed to escape. The movie is quite autobiographical. Oh my God, I need you to help me. Autobiographical, right? There we go. At a certain level. But yeah, I just wanted to add like, this is going on too. Like Tim Burton's next work is he going to be working with Netflix in the production of Wednesday, which is sort of a spin-off series from the Addams Family, which is it looks really sick because it has the girl from X in it.
Yep.
Yeah, she's sick. But yeah.
Yeah, she's definitely coming up. Like she's one of the new Scream Queens. She's in the Scream franchise now. She's one of the main protagonists. Like I'm pretty sure she came from Gossip Girl to these big screen roles where she's breaking out and like, yeah, I know who you're talking about. She's phenomenal. What's her name again?
Yeah, look her up real quick. But just like some comments on that. Like I totally agree with Tim Burton. Like I think Disney at this point is going way too reliant off of their established IPs like Marvel, like Star Wars, stuff like that. It's like they're just becoming not as creative as I think a lot of people want Disney to be. And it's like at the same time, can you really blame them? They spent billions upon billions of dollars for these franchises. Like, of course they're gonna like just keep milking these things, but like I think people do miss that creative side of Disney. And but I also want to add on top of that is like I'll even ask you as a question, like when was the last time you watched a Disney production that wasn't Marvel or Star Wars?
That wasn't Marvel or Star Wars.
Because my hypothesis is like, have we just outgrown Disney?
I don't know. It's been a while. Like I feel like outside of Marvel or Star Wars, the big draw to me was Pixar.
Right.
But I feel like Pixar films have not been good. And just to interject, it's Jenny Ortega.
Okay. Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of the stuff they've been making is just very commercialized. So I feel like that's got to be where Tim Burton's coming from, is that it's a very centralized thing where they, want to have full hands-on control because they know the formula. They know the recipe to have a decent, passable film that can hit these box office quotas.
Right. And it's like, I think the last Disney movie I watched, because it just kept getting promoted to me, like everywhere, was Turning Red. I don't know if you saw the promotional things for that, but like, I think that movie was decent, but like I said, like my question was just like, are we? Maybe I'm just like outgrown Disney. Like, am I really the audience for Disney when it comes to like these animated things? Like, I don't believe so, right?
No,
so
they're for
like,
kids.
Right.
They always been for kids,
So, right. And I'm like looking at Tim Burton, like what do you want Disney to do? And I guess it would propose this thing for me is like, I would love to see Disney kind of do some things for like adult audience, just do their like the whole, like outside of Marvel and outside of Star Wars, like where the kids from back in the day were like, we're grown up now. Disney's been there forever, but like make some adult content. Why not super adult, but like make some serious content. And that's also, I know I'm going on with different tangents, but like I think one of the beauties of sort of the cartoons is that there's adult themes that like even children just won't get. So there is like that little slither of things that an adult can catch on to when watching those films, but like at the end of the day, like it's not something that I'm so I guess I want to ask you a question, like would you want to see Disney sort of like dive into more, not even having adult content, but something that's more suited for an adult audience?
Yeah, with Star Wars. Like I think Star Wars should be a more mature IP at this point. Like I was listening to something George Lucas was saying today about who Darth Vader was, and that how the whole story of Anakin Skywalker's redemption story. And it's like, well, that's really interesting because we know at some point Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker was like a genocidal maniac, like killing loads of people all across the Empire. And like, I feel like that has a lot of seriousness, but it's not so serious when you watch Star Wars. Like if you watch Kenobi, it's not so serious. You know what I mean?
What about Andor?
Like even when there's drama, you can't take it completely serious because you haven't seen Darth Vader explode a dude in a million pieces with his mind powers. You know what I mean? Like
right.
it hasn't gotten like overtly serious. Like even with the lightsabers, there's like no gore. And I'm not saying that graphicness is the seriousness. It's just I'm just saying that it's not graphic because in the other elements, it's not serious either. But outside of Star Wars, in terms of seriousness, what would they do? Like make a serious animated film? Like
100%. Yes, that I was about to say that. Like with the rise of how sick like a quote unquote adult animation is now, I think Disney could kill something like that. Like I don't know if you've seen Arcane, Invincible, and just like going off of anime, right? Like anime is like the biggest thing right now. Like anime has some of the best perception of adult themes I've ever seen in my life. Like Attack on Titan, the reason why I think you would love Attack on Titan, because it has to deal with a lot of political like shit. And like such a beautiful package of it being like visually stunning to where like the medium of like animation is the only way you can do it. So like looking at Disney, why not invest into some of this adult animation? Like especially when that industry is coming up. And like going back just a little bit, you talking about Star Wars. Like have you been watching Andor?
No, I haven't started it yet.
Okay. Yeah, me neither. I'm kind of over Star Wars, not even gonna lie. Like
yes, that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah. And it's like we're saying with Star Wars that, and just going off of what Tim Burton's saying, like I don't want Disney to rely, even though they spend billions of dollars on these properties. While you're doing that, do your own thing. Like I think people would love to see some new content from Disney that can really reflect on just like growing up. And like I think one thing that you can say about Disney, like while they've always made that childish content outside of like the properties they acquired, I would love to see in a thematic way Disney growing up and like making grown up kind of projects. I think that would be dope. And they have the resources for it, so why not? I'm assuming that would you like this plan? Like, do you think that Disney could benefit from kind of growing up in a way?
I don't know, because I feel like maybe that's just us being a little bit more like selfish in wanting the mediums to grow with us than what they used before. Like Star Wars, like episode 1 and 2 were particularly like childish films. Like it felt like they most certainly were for somebody my age. I watched episode 1 when I was 6 years old, 6 years old, and I loved it. A lot of the older people hated it. Like the original fans
really
hated it. Yes.
Wait, and we're talking about episode 1, like the prequel episode.
Yes.
How?
Phantom Menace.
That was a banger.
Okay, yeah, see, okay, that's the thing. Like the running joke they have is like the kids love the new stuff. Like every kid I've ever met loves The Force Awakens, but the older generation likes the older stuff more. Like I preferred Phantom Menace to The Force Awakens. So I think there does need to be stuff for kids because us as a human civilization, we're always having kids and kids want things to watch or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it comes down to choosing where they're going to spend their time content wise. And like if you're going to have the MCU becoming more childish, like we saw in Thor Love and Thunder,
Jesus,
then there has to be something a little bit more serious, like beyond the corner. I will say this. I think you're onto something with adult animated films because you do know Sausage Party just got approved as a television show, right?
I did not.
Yep. So you're ahead of the curve on that one.
Hey, there we go. Hey, Pop Cult Cast. We get into the future a little bit. We have the big shots. We have big shot callers over here. But yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to add about Tim Burton leaving? Do you agree that Disney is a big circus right now?
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a massive company. Like it's so huge.
Right.
Probably, if not the biggest, one of like the top 10 biggest corporations on the planet Earth. And that's a feat. There's a lot of human beings that are employed at that corporation with a specific job. And I'm sure there's people that were hired to look out and make sure Tim Burton didn't stray from certain guidelines on Dumbo. Like a plan that, the people that know how to squeeze dollars out of everything, they impose their will on the creative people of the film. And I'm sure that's why Tim Burton's, running away. He doesn't want his creativity to be brought in for the sake of dollars. But that's just, hate to say it, but that's just kind of how it works here. Like George Lucas complained about this, I think like 20 years ago, where no kidding, George Lucas said making a movie in the Soviet Union was better than in the United States.
Damn.
And he said the reason is he said in the Soviet Union, as long as you don't criticize the government, you're good. But here, there's so many hoops you got to jump through. And it's not because they are hostile to your ideas or they're trying to censor you directly. It's because you tell them, I want to do this. And they say, well, there's no money in that idea. Next idea. So it's like incidental censorship. And I'm certain that a lot of creatives in this day and age are feeling that
100%.
because we're seeing a change in the industry. Like, think about it. The movie theater isn't what it used to be. DVD sales are non-existent. Think about how you could make a movie that you were passionate about. Like, you and the actors, everybody was passionate about this project. You wanted to make an Oscar winner. You wanted to make somebody, freaking cry if they saw it in the theater. You wanted to do it all. And you made that film. And, the one guy that showed up cried, but nobody else showed up. So it didn't make money in the movie theater. You could rely on the DVD sales. That's not a thing anymore. Like, it's, going straight to streaming and you're not making as much money back there. So these corporations don't want to take that risk.
Right.
They don't want to make an Irishman. They don't want to make, something that's a little risky. And this is what we're kind of stuck with, where they have the sure products. Like, let's make another Star Wars. We know Star Wars makes money.
Yeah.
Just, throw some lightsaber fights together and we'll call it a day.
Right.
Versus like, hey, I have this story about, it could still be in Star Wars. Hey, I have a story about a stormtrooper that has PTSD from, the events of A New Hope after Luke blew up the Death Star and all his family and friends are dead. Like a real hard-hitting story. Like, maybe not. Like, you had us with Star Wars, but once you got into like creative thinking, like, no, guy, like we bring out the old people that we can just spend 20 mil on and then we'll make 100 of them.
Right. And I want to touch on a few points to that because you just dropped some gems. But like 100% like I just lost my train of thought. Holy shit. That was so quick. Well, one thing I didn't forget is that I'm so glad that Tim Burton is sort of like putting his foot down and not working with Disney again. Because like I know news just recently came out that Kojima has turned down a lot of deals of becoming exclusive with certain game developer companies, so like Xbox, PlayStation, whatever. And he's declined every single one of those offers just to stay independent, so that he can make what he wants and like on his time, right? I don't know, Death Stranding, right? Yeah. And like that game is such a polarizing game because like at the end of the day, you can really boil that game down to like it's just a walking simulator. But guess what?
Yeah.
Kojima has the power to do that because he is independent. And like as creatives and stuff like that, like you have to really like sit there and be like, you know what, Kojima, you do your thing, man. Because like you went through hell with Konami and like that thing with like getting your name basically taken off of MGS5, which is like holy shit. Like that's crazy for him to do, but like yeah, stay independent, man. But like you said was the whole like, oh yeah, now let's come back. The whole selfish thing. I really like that you said that. This is going back way far ago, but like saying like
I went on a tangent.
Yeah, you're right. Like the whole thing with me wanting that more adult sort of side of Disney is like that really is kind of selfish. In that saying like we like putting it into like our court versus what Disney's bread and butter is was always been like serving to like kids, and it's like yeah, that really is pretty selfish. But like I still want it. I still want it.
yeah. You still want what you want, yeah.
Right, because it's just like I can see the potential that Disney has, right? And then there was one more point that I wanted to bring up. There was Kojima that. Oh yeah, and saying like I think you brought up a good point in that we really are sort of brainwashed into only really caring about Marvel and Star Wars. Like I'm thinking about all these great movies that have the potential, like that I'm just not seeing because it doesn't have that Marvel logo slapped on top of its like the poster. I was like, damn, like, yeah, there's just a whole bunch of, I mean, of course there's like the outliers, like I'll probably always see like an A24 horror movie or like, those, but like the movie theater is so dependent on those brand name names on the poster. And like I feel really bad for it. because like I don't know if you saw Barbarian yet. It's on HBO Max now.
Oh yeah, I saw it. It was
You saw it?
I liked it. I liked it a lot actually.
Yeah, we had to talk about that. But yeah, that movie was sick, and it's just a movie that unfortunately I didn't see in a movie theater because, like I said, like I'm pretty much Marvel, Star Wars brainwashed, and I saw it on HBO Max and I had a great time. Like because before it came on HBO Max, like Barbarian flew like literally under my radar. I had no idea that was even a movie, but then I heard people say, "Oh, this movie is great," and I watched it. Yeah, it was pretty fantastic. But yeah, that's all I have left for that topic. If you have wanted to add anything else,
Yeah, I actually do want to bring up what you're pointing at, and I want to ask you a question.
okay.
So we talked about like you brought up Kojima being independent and he made Death Stranding. And this is something that I'm starting to notice. Whenever people are taking these risks, they want to be independent, like these creatives, and then they make a dud.
Mhm.
And you brought up like, oh, you're looking for the Marvel logo. And I feel like that's familiarity, knowing that you're not wasting your time. Because to go to the movie theater, especially if you have a family in this day and age, like think about it, you have mom, dad, the two kids, that's $40 in tickets minimum right there. It's probably more. It's probably gonna be closer to 60 with taxes and everything. And then you get the popcorn, the 4 sodas, a few snacks, $100 to go to the cinema for
Right.
2 hours. What you just paid to see should be
Sucks.
worth that.
Right.
Should be worth that. And the thing is, I feel like a lot of people that are in the market for this stuff that want to, spend time watching a movie or playing a game or whatever, they are feeling pushed towards what's safe whenever you do have these risky ventures that just aren't working out so much. Like think about Death Stranding. Like it sucked. I hated it. I
hate that
don't
game.
care
Hate
about
it.
it
Right.
at all. And I'm happy that Kojima, can have the creative freedom, but doesn't it kind of prove the producers at Konami somewhat right? Like, hey, the reason we hired all these people to check it it wasn't because we were like, screw your creativity or we don't appreciate you. It's just we understand that there's a process. We do know when some things will hit and some things won't. And yes, we can be just as wrong as you, but the thing is, we're a whole corporation that's trying our best to get this money-making venture into a science where we know like people will scream at this jump scare. We know it without even like having it tested yet. And I feel like it's that rock and hard place because you do want people like Martin Scorsese made The Irishman on Netflix, right? And that was a good film, a great, solid film. But there's, few and in between with films like that. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Were you interested because you heard like word of mouth was amazing, or because it had A24 associated with it and you knew A24 makes these solid Oscar-worthy films and they're on that roll right now?
Right.
So like, I don't think it's as much like outside these big corporations like Disney, Marvel, etc. It just comes down to how is the risk taking done? And we've seen Tim Burton as a risk taker, right? You and I have seen Sleepy Hollow, banger, Sweeney Todd, banger. Like all these movies where he cast Johnny Depp to make out with his wife, bangers.
Right.
Like all those films are great. And Dumbo, I think wasn't his best film. So maybe in like Tim Burton's case, he's going to go off and, make something really well without the oversight. But I do think some of these other creatives, sometimes like they do need those people that are around them to say, hey, do not do this. In Kojima's case on Metal Gear Solid 3, he had some ideas that honestly, I think would have made that game not as good. But those people around him that were hired by Konami to also be creative with him said, no, like we can't do that. It's going to break the game. It's going to cause glitches. It's going to take away from the story. Like we should be doing this instead. Sometimes that's just what's necessary. And that sucks to say because it's fun to root against like Disney. Like
the mega
Disney's the big evil corporation, right? But the reason they're a big corporation is they're getting it down right. Like at bare minimum, you pay that $100 to go to the theater to see the latest Pixar release. At minimum, it's average, and you didn't waste your time. Right. At minimum, you're not going to go in there and be like, "Wow, what a horrific piece of trash." Why did I even like get out of bed this morning? But that's what I think. Right. Like, the question I wanted to ask you though is like what I said about independence being kind of wild. Because, you know, you and I have both seen it in the journalism field. Like the way it works is what we've written isn't just ours. It gets passed off to an editor that has to see it, and they have certain standards they got to hold it to. So they may change your work, and sometimes it works out for the better. Sometimes it doesn't. That's just like how it works. Do you think like being independent is wholly better? Because look at independent journalists. Some of them are just on like pushing COVID vaccinations being bad because it can fill their Patreon subscriptions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what do you think?
Whew, that's
a question. Yeah.
Yeah. I think anybody who says that getting their work edited as a bad thing is, I wouldn't even want to say lying to themselves, but like just doesn't see the value in other people looking at their work before it's published. But at the same time, like I hate getting my message edited. I really dislike it because like at that point, it doesn't feel like me writing it. And I think, you know, super side tangent here, but I think that's one of the beauties of YouTube and how free it is to sort of like upload like a video essay, depending on the quality of your video essay, because it could like suck. And that's also like another thing of like how good editing is, like getting your work edited is. But like, I think, yeah, but like taking back to Kojima, right? He's proved that he's made bangers, right? And maybe Death Stranding is like a fumble, but like a lot of people still like it, and like maybe that's up to like people just having like, you know, just their God Kojima. Like I'll say anything is good if you make it, and it's like, yeah, it's just like I don't know. I think there's value in being free, and like, but I think it's just 50-50. I think it also just depends on who the writer is or who the creative is, because some people really do need the editing, like Stephen King, like on how to edit, or I forgot what the book is called, but like he said like the editor is like literally God, and it's like you just have to follow the rules. It's like getting their perspective is very important, but like some people thrive in being literally unlimited, and I think just adding on to that, it's very hard to be super successful being completely free. As fortunate as that sounds, I think structure is great in terms of getting that something solid down. But yeah, so like, yeah, what do you think about it?
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Structure is great. Yeah, you're 100% right. And good reference with the Stephen King that like editor is God. Like it sounds like we're writing a love letter to our editors right now. But for real though, like there's been articles I've written that I looked at and was like, oh, this just isn't the quality or standard that I want, but my deadline is in 30 minutes, sent it in. Editor sat down with me and said, hey, let's make these changes. And then the changes were made. And that second set of eyes transformed my work into something significantly better.
Right.
And I think that's, you know, you brought up YouTube. YouTube doesn't have an editor. You just upload it. If your content sucks, it's still on YouTube. That's how they make their money, is just having so much content, good and bad alike.
Right.
But imagine if YouTube did and everybody's videos were edited. It's like, hey, the Charlie Bit Me video is a little too long. Cut it down, change the brightness setting.
Very good. Yeah, I like how you brought that up. That's actually solid as hell. Right. Imagine like those super iconic like moments in YouTube history, and like, the aperture here is a little off. Like, let's go ahead and turn this down a little bit. And it's like you're changing the entire essence of the entire like video in people's memories. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Anyway, I did want to end the podcast off with our monthly segment of what are we looking forward to. It's the new month, November. Huge month, by the way. Like I just want to start first. I usually let you start, but I have to start first. 1, God of War Ragnarok. Woo! I cannot wait for that to play that game. That comes out November 9th. It's apparently so I thought they were going to do a trilogy, but it's apparently just a 2-part game with God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok. And also, of course, coming out November 11th, we got Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I think everybody's going to be in theaters to see that movie. But other than that, what else is November? It's really it for me. Like those 2 like pretty big like media moments coming out November. What are you looking forward to, Caleb? November.
I'm looking forward to Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I'm also looking forward to, you know, obviously Black Panther. Like it's gonna be a huge deal. Spirited. It's a Will Ferrell, Ryan Reynolds comedy. Looking forward to that one. I do want to say this. So it's not as much as I'm looking forward to it. It's something that went under the radar for me, actually. Bullet Train. I finally watched it last night.
Oh, okay.
It's great.
Really?
It's fantastic. Surprisingly, yes, it's actually really, really enjoyable. Like, I think it's probably one of the most enjoyable films I've watched this year. And I don't remember any of us like thinking either of us thinking anything about it, like we're like, oh, it's another action flick, like kind of cheesy. Everybody's on a train. Oh, well.
Yeah.
No, it was phenomenal. So I definitely want to focus in on the calendar and pay closer attention to how things were received after they passed through the calendar, because that showed me I feel like I'm missing it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that film came out, 2 months ago? I'm just now seeing it. Yeah, I would
I
have
thought it came out
loved
in
to
the
see
summer. Didn't it come out like sometime in the summer?
They have, yeah.
I feel like it came out like I remember seeing promotional material for it when Top Gun Maverick was a thing. And that was like
Mhm.
way early summer, so probably somewhere around then. I don't know. It was also a movie I was looking to see, but I just never, sat in the movie theater. Yeah. Well, yeah. Anything else?
There's a film coming out later in the month called Bones and All.
Oh,
We
yeah. I
talked
brought
about
that up.
one.
Yeah.
And
I was. I
I'm
did not know
very
that was
much
coming out in
looking forward to
November.
it.
Yeah, and also, yeah, another thing too is Wednesday coming out very late November, like I think November 24th. Definitely going to see that for sure. But I'm looking.
Oh, that's a day one. I'm gonna binge it.
Yeah.
Like if they release all their episodes, no doubt. Like Jenna Ortega is
Dope.
like I feel like she's like the new Anna Taylor-Joy almost.
I
Like
was
she's
literally
that
going to make that
great
connection.
actress that you just can't wait to watch.
Right. 100%. But yeah, that's what we're looking forward to, guys. I want you to first of all go ahead and subscribe, like, and comment. What are y'all guys doing? We want to hear from you. We want to hear from you about Tom Brady, Antonio Brown, sort of bro-ish like outcry, whatever like going on right now. We want to talk to you about what else do we talk about? Henry Cavill being back as Superman. We want to talk about Tim Burton and all that stuff, guys. We want to hear from you. But yeah, that's episode 8 of the Popco Cast. We'll catch you later this month with another video. See you guys next time.